Rabbi Yossi Groner is the director of Lubavitch Education Center of North Carolina. His father, Rabbi Label Groner, was a secretary of the Rebbe.
We were going through a very challenging time in the school, and it was to make sure to satisfy the parents correctly and to make sure the staff was doing what they had to do. And I'm sure a lot of people go through it, but in our community, with the fewer resources that we have within the Jewish community, it was doubly challenging. And at one point, my wife just felt like all the effort that she put in was not producing the results, and she felt like everything was one big mess. And she sat down and wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and expressing her concern and just asking the Rebbe that she should have the strength to be able to carry on in the shlichus. And the Rebbe wrote back a zettel, and I think it was rather a very strong zettel. And he wrote like this: Hari, hitzlichu, and in parentheses, yachad im baila sheyichya, ba'avodas hakodesh, l'maylo min hamishur legamra, v'hi koder lazeh mes, question mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Aval hamelech basoda utavasri tev tamid kalayomim asken alatzin. So we live with that settle. We live with that answer from the Rebbe because, that is something that gives us encouragement that it's not about how we feel about the success of the shlichus. We had established a preschool when we came, and at the time we outgrew the place of where we were. This was in 1985 going into 1986, and we had contracted with a place and it didn't work. And the community was just building this huge campus called Shalom Park. And there was one particular building there that was their original building that we wanted, and they said it wasn't available. Everything that we did to try to get it, they said it's not going to be possible. And it was 2 weeks before the preschool was starting, and we didn't have a place. So my wife, who was the principal of the preschool at the time, sat down and wrote a letter to the Rebbe. In those days, it was before faxes. We didn't use fax machines yet. And she basically said that she has a group of students, and we don't have a place, and how are we going to deal with the parents, and what are we going to do with the education? And she's just asking the Rebbe for advice and for a bracha. The letter went out on a Thursday, and on Monday, my father calls our home, and I answer the phone, and he says, "Is your wife there?" And he was on official business, so there were no greetings. And my wife picks up the phone, and he says, "You wrote a letter to the Rebbe. Please take a pencil and write down the Rebbe's answer." And the Rebbe answered, "V'Hashem yizbarech yashlim kechol hadorosh, u'tavasri tev tomid kalayomim asker alatzin." And we said thank you. And the next thing we did is we called all the parents, and we told them, Mazel Tov, we have a place. They asked where. We said, we don't know yet, but we know we have a place. I called one of my biggest balabatim who already had interaction with the Rebbe. He was a state senator. His name was Senator Marshall Rausch, still very involved with Chabad. And he said, since you have the Rebbe's answer, you're definitely going to have the place. Try to approach the Jewish Foundation again and give them last refusal, which means tell them you have a place, but you're giving them last refusal. And I did that. I called the lawyer that was in charge of the Jewish Foundation, and I told them we have a place, but we're giving you last refusal. So he says, you know what, Rabbi Groner, I thought it over, and I think we can do it. We have to go to 5 different boards and get their approval. And within 5 days, we got all the approvals, and we hired a crew and prepared the building, and we were there for the opening day. But there's a secondary story to that, because one of the families, the mother was actually teaching Hebrew at our school. She was an Israeli. And she called us up and she said, I'm so happy that you got the place, but I need to understand, where did you have the confidence to say that we have a place just based on the Rebbe's words? And we said it was a given. If the Rebbe said it, the Rebbe didn't give us a bracha, didn't say a bracha. He gave us a promise. V'Hashem yizbarech yashlim kechol hadorosh. He will fulfill it. He will do it. So we knew that it was going to happen. We didn't know how yet, but we knew that it was going to happen. So she began to cry. And she said that they have not been blessed with children. And they were hesitant to go to the Rebbe because they're not familiar with that. And this event encouraged them that they should go to the Rebbe. So that Chol Hamoed Pesach, her husband actually, was in New York, and he came to 770. And when the Rebbe came up from davening on Chol Hamoed, he stopped the Rebbe. And he told the Rebbe that he needs a bracha for him and his wife to have a child. And the Rebbe said that if his wife will start keeping Taras HaMishpacha, they will be blessed by Hashem with a child. And that's what they did. They started Taras HaMishpacha, and a year later they had a baby boy.